Hello, welcome back to the channel, Fabricating Firewood. My name is Matt. Today is July 9th, 2024, and I'm going to start out by working on the actual spinny thingy-majiggy here. And the reason I'm going to do that is so that when I go to fabricate these arms here, and I've got the all thread on here for the plastic wrap and then the counterweight on this side, I'm not going to interfere with any of this. So yesterday I was discussing having to get longer bolts and separating those pillow block plates further apart for the sole reason of being able to put the all thread through and then bolting it back on the back side. But what I've come to decide is I'm just going to weld the nut, because it's a pretty beefy nut. That's what she said. I'm going to weld the nut to the face of this so that I can just screw the all thread into it and then put a nut onto that to tighten it down. That way I don't have to worry about readjusting any of this. I'm going to do the same thing on this side for the all thread that's going to have the, it's probably going to be 3/4 inch all thread, but it's going to be the all thread that holds the weights, the counterbalances. I'm going to be doing a lot of thinking out loud here. I'm not exactly sure where exactly I need to put this, how far out, but we'll see. So this is 1 inch all thread. I got it on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. I got 4 nuts. I intended on bolting it to this and then welding the back side. That's why I got 4, but I'll still need 4 because I'll have 1 welded to it, and then I'll back this one down to lock it in. Problem is that without having this on, I can't really get the best visualization of where it needs to be, so I'm going to go ahead and fabricate the plastic parts. So the inner diameter of the cardboard tube for the plastic wrap is 3 inches. If I use a 3-inch hole saw, the problem is it's going to be undersized because the hole saw is designed for an outer dimension finished hole. So I've got a 3 1/8 inch that will be closer to the dimension of the inner portion of that cardboard. And then I've got a 3 1/2 and a 4 1/4 inch hole saw to make the back plate. The material I have here is 1/2 inch UMVVH, whatever it is. It's that high density polyethylene, I think it is. So I'm just going to eyeball it and cut a piece out. I need to put a backer on there, so I'm going to get a piece of wood so I don't tear up my saw. I'm going to come in from the other side so I don't have a lip. Yes, very nice. So you could probably get away with using a 3 1/4 inch instead of a 3 1/8 inch, and it'd be a little bit tighter fit. So I'm going to go in and put this on the saw. I'm going to make another one and then put it on the belt sander. I'm going to go clean these up. Okay. What I did was I got a drill bit that you have to press fit these on. So you have to press fit these on, which will make them nice and concentric. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill and tap them for 1/4 That way they'll be one piece. It doesn't have to be anywhere specific. It just has to be, didn't even have to be 3, but I'm going to make it 3. Now these do have to fit over a big ass 1 inch all thread, so I think I might have just messed up and put them too close. So it does matter, I guess, where you drill them. So I don't recommend you try this with anything other than plastic. Need to get a countersink now. trick is going to be to get this 1-inch hole through this without completely obliterating it. Just using a 1-inch 1/4-20, not pan head, tapered. Can't remember what the name of it is. I'm at a loss for words. And I'm screwing it in from the back side, the heavier or the larger diameter plate. There we go. Now I can knock that drill bit out. So that's the finished product. Just like that. Well, not finished. I still need to drill a big hole in it. So I'll get this one to where it needs to be, and then I'll proceed with drilling the larger hole. Now typically you'd use a 201,000th diameter drill bit. Can't remember the designation letter or that it is, or number 7. I think it's number 7. Basically it's a 201,000ths, but this is plastic and I want the threads tight, so I'm using 199. You could probably go all the way down to 180 thousandths and be able to tap it with no issues. There we go. The drill size I used to press down in there was a F, as in Frank. So now I have to get 1-inch holes into these bad boys. Now I've got this large Varibit, but it is 1 3/8, so I dare not put it down there because it's not going to do a very good job. So all I've got are 1 1/8 inch hole saws, 7/8 inch Varibit, 1 1/4 inch or 1 3/8 inch Varibit, or a Mac Daddy 1-inch drill bit. The problem's going to be with holding on to this bad boy. And good news is it's round, so it'll just spin. I just don't want it to jack it up, especially since the table doesn't have a large enough hole for it to fit in. So I think what I'll do is cut this and then use a piece of this. Let's see if I can't rip my hand off. Good news is that while this drill press is strong enough to drill things, the belt does give, so. Coming from the other side. Nope, no. I want to drift it. Ah! Come on. Voila. Makes a mess. So even with the incorrectly drilled holes, still cleared them. It's no big deal. So I don't have to make another one. But That's the finished product. And I believe this is a valve spring for some type of engine. You can order them individually. Now the bolts, you have to order them in like 6 or 7 of them in a box. Same with these flat washers, you get like 5 of them. Now this threaded rod could stand to be about another inch long, based on this right here, because that's pretty tight. I don't think that's going to slip that easy. So what that tells me is I'm going to have to only have one bolt, or yeah, one nut on the back side of this. So probably going to have to run this, weld the nut to the bar, put the all thread in maybe 3/4 of the way, and then tack it on so it doesn't move. That'll give me more adjustment on this, because this needs to be able to basically slip for tension. Just checking for clearance, make sure it has clearance on all 4 corners. So that tells me that's my no-go line right there. I can't go any further than that, or get any closer than that. So I took my square and I put it on the plate, and then I made sure that it clears all 4 corners. And that puts a line that I can't cross. So anticipating the possibility of getting a larger diameter roll of this, I don't know how many feet this is per roll, but it seems to be pretty standard across the industry of a 12-inch roll getting this thick of a roll. So just in case there is a thicker option, I want to make sure that I don't have an issue. And I also need to put the front cradle up there to make sure that it doesn't interfere. So the front cradle has a little bit of a flare to it. So I'm going to need to make sure that is not going to be an issue. All right. So it doesn't matter if it's out here or there, it still needs to clear. So I'm going to put it on my no-go line, and it does not go. So now I have to move it further out. I know it's going to clear on the bottom. So let's go there plus a 1/2 inch, just to be a no-go. So that's my no-go line based on the front cradle. I just found another problem. I'm going to have to put the spring on the back side. Putting the spring on the back side, and the plastic still barely clears the front of this. So that's another problem I've got. You know, I remember watching the McAmee Farms. He said something about the tension would have got a longer or something or other. I can't remember what it was. Now, one thing I can do is weld a 1/4 inch by 3 inch plate on this to extend it out further. Now it'll add a little bit extra weight, but I can just counterbalance that. So I might put maybe 2L in there to give it another 1/2 inch, because right now, with this all the way up against it, it's about an 1/8 inch overlapped this back plate here. So I at least need to clear that. Yeah, that's definitely the part. So let's give it 4 inches. Okay, I'm going to pull everything off. Before I do, I'm going to figure out where I need to weld this. How many inches in. So the overall dimension of the roll is about 2 3/4. So let's say 3 inches. Actually, the radius. Yeah. Overall diameter is about 5 1/4. And eyeballing it, it's 2 5/8 maybe. So let's just say 3-inch diameter, or 3-inch radius. Jeez. So if I get an inch away, so it'll be 4 inches away from the no-go line. So 5 to 9. Let's draw a line. Yeah, that clears plenty. Yep, okay. So let's take this off. So if that is 4 inches from that, it'll be 1 5/8 from the end. And these are just spacers, so they don't have to be on there any specific tolerance. So I'm just going to weld to them. I'm going to move this out of here. I want it melting. So I forgot to turn the fan off, and this is what it looks like when the shielding gas can't do its job. Let's try that again. Okay. Next step is to weld the nut on. So 1 5/8, and then 1 1/2 inch from the edge. Actually, this is 4-inch plate, so 2 inch from the edge. Now this weld is going to have to be pretty significant, so I'm going to do it in layers. First, I'm going to mark it on the outside in case it moves on me. Once I close this in, I can't see it. Yeah! And it clears by about 1/2 inch. Nice. I'm going to pull this all thread off because I don't want slag attaching to the threads, because that makes it a little bit of a pain in the ass to clean. I'm going to go ahead and weld on the pieces that support this front. Just because it's going to have extra weight, and it's, you know, I don't want to take a chance of bending it or whatever, so I'm going to go ahead and weld that on. Okay, one thing I need to do is clamp something to the top of that so that this isn't pointing down or up before I go welding it. However, I need to grind that weld down. So I just need to make sure that it is somewhat plumb. It's just a support, doesn't need to be perfect. So I'm going to center it, since it's 1 1/4 inch. I'm going to center it in between the two. And the positioning of it is basically just so that the bottom portion is right up against the radius, just like the other side. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, just somewhat in the area, and then I would like to have it plumb, obviously. And then just put a tack on the corner. Now I'm just going to put the clamp on it so I can use it to rotate the rod so that it's square, because it's a little bit twisted counterclockwise. I'm going to tack the bottom again, check for plumb, center it on the big bar, check for plumb again, so it's centered, plumb, and adjusted. All four sides, top and bottom. Now I've got to remove this temporary bracing. So I need to close off these two caps, because these are going to be right about there. So basically the larger piece is going to be welded to the side of this cradle, and it's going to slide over the top of this, which is going to be positioned in accordance with the dimension of the cradle. So I have to determine how long of a piece to cut off of this, which I can't remember what I said, and then clamp it to this, and then slide these in, and then that will give me the exact location of where to connect it to. And to start with, I need to put something that I know is straight, which that right there, because this is exactly where the cradle is going to be. Actually, I need the correct size piece. I can't use the smaller pieces. It's going to give me the wrong dimension. So I need to use the piece. I need to use the same dimension that is going to be welded to it to mark on the cradle where to clamp it. Okay, so that's going to tell me where to clamp the sleeves, so I can remove this. So I know I need to be at least 13 inches from the inside of this to the inside of that. 13 inches, because that's what the clearance for the plastic needs to be, the roll. I would say that's just the minimum. I want to square this up as best I can, get it kind of centered. 13, 13, 13. Now, that's going to give me the proper depth, the maximum this cradle can go towards the front cradle. Reason is because as the plastic goes around, the plastic has to clear the inside of this. Now I can go back further, or I can get a smaller roll of plastic and not be 12 inches, like 10 inches or whatever, then I can scoot this in, and I want that ability. However, I need to figure out how much of this piece I need to cut off so that it slides over this piece, which barely actually goes right to the 13 inches. So this can't go past it, and it can't come and hit the weld. So basically, if I want to make it bigger, I have to have just enough of this. So the longer I make this, the less adjustment back I have. The shorter I make this, the more adjustment I have. However, it doesn't give me enough adjustment to go in, so it's kind of a happy medium. So figure if I go maybe 18 inches for the firewood, like if somebody wanted 18-inch pieces, which I doubt, because that's 16 inches from the inside of the plate to the back of this. So 18 inches would give me 1 3/4 past it, so a happy medium. So if I make this 5 inches, and I think that's what I said originally, that'll give me an extra 2.5 inches of play to come back with it, and 2.5 inches of play to go in with it. So cut this at 5 inches, 2 pieces. Okay, so basically I need to clamp these directly to it, and that'll tell me exactly where depth-wise or width-wise where the actual sleeve posts are going to be. So I want to use these clamps here because they're shorter, they're smaller. I'm going to use 2 clamps on it. That way it won't move around on me. The first clamp I'm going to put on it is just to snug it so I can check it with the square. And that saw cuts pretty square, so right now I'm centering it between the 2 Sharpie lines. There we go. So that one's good. That one's good. So this is going to give me the general idea of where to clamp to. I'm going to go ahead and clamp these inside. Now I have to figure out how to support this. Okay, so I can, since these are the same size, I'm going to clamp a piece of the big steel to the bottom, making sure that I don't let that thing drop. Be careful not to bump this. So this needs to come in about another 1.5 inches maybe. 10 5/8 proud. Ooh, 10 3/4. What the hell happened there? All right, 12, just under 12.5. Just under 12.5. Just under 12.5. Okay, so what I need to do is clamp it down to the main bar, and then this dimension is correct to the bottom of the cradle. And then I need to unclamp these and slide the whole assembly left and right to get my center. The problem was I was, yeah, see now that's 10 and 11/16 again. That is 10 and 5/8. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So 10 and 5/8 proud. 10 11/16, a little bit more. 10, just under 11/16. 10, just under 11/16. All right, verify this again. 12 and just under a half. 12 and just under a half. Okay, so now I gotta make sure that I'm up against it. Should be 10 and 11/16. 10 and 11/16. Pull that in, get a clamp. Keep it from moving. Before I get going, I'm going to give you a little tour of what I did. I know that the distance between this and this is 12 inches and a quarter, probably 12.5, whatever, it's centered. But this, since the plate at the bottom is 12.5, just under, I have to make sure that this is 12.5 so it's perfectly plumb. Now, I did clamp this piece right here to that crossbar, but the problem with that is that this was going over the middle of it, and this is curved, and it was basically causing the whole assembly to cant up. So now I've clamped this sleeve, which is clamped sideways to the cradle. I clamped it directly to this bar that goes front to back, so that tells me that it is perfectly level with the assembly. And to get the correct 12.5 shy, I clamped this plate so that I could basically get this cradle the correct width according to the bottom, and then centered this piece and this piece on this assembly, slid it back and forth, measured from here to here, which is 10 11/16, 10 11/16, shy on both of them, and then clamped it down. So now, verifying that this is touching and that is touching, and that this is not sticking out, and that's not sticking out, I am ready to weld. It is mental gymnastics to get this to where it needs to be. I got flies coming in here to get out of the rain. 1D, a little bit low. Okay, so now what I need to do is determine if I'm going to use a 1/4 20 or 5/16 inch knob or just a bolt. I am thinking maybe to keep the bolt out of the way, put it along the side and just use a 3/8/16, because that'll have more surface area to push and it's not going to pinpoint push this in. So if I use 3/8/16 as the bolts, put some nuts on here, or drill the holes, put some nuts on here, weld around, and then that'll allow me to use some 3/8/16 bolts to hold this in where it needs to be. So I'm gonna do a mock-up right quick. This would be a travesty if it didn't work. I'd probably just go inside, lay down on my bed, and cry myself to sleep if this didn't work. Perfect. Perfect. Now I can work on the chain sprocket shaft, because I have not yet determined if I'm going to use 3/4 inch all thread or just the 1 inch remaining 1 inch rod welded to this, and then put the weights on it and just use a like a tractor clip that prevents it from popping off. How do I want to attach the pillow block? Another thing I want to do is I want to make a sleeve. The sleeve specifically to allow me to remove the crank handle to store it, instead of allowing it to stick out constantly, and if I have to move it or whatever and it gets bent, so I can pop it off, just pull a clip, pop it off, and then be able to store it just by sticking it down in a hole or something, or maybe a sleeve. So we'll see. Now the shaft here, I'm not sure if it's cold rolled or if it is hot rolled, but either way it's a little tight going through here. So I had to grind it down a little bit, which means I'm going to have to grind this down as well. I only want this to come out enough to be able to attach a shaft to it. So I'm wondering if I have any round stock with a 1 or 3/4 inch hole in it. Okay, I do indeed have some round stock that's got a hole in it. It's not quite 3/4, it's a little bit big, but for my purposes it will do just fine, because what I will do is I will have this extend out by about 1 inch, and then I'll cut this at 2 inches, and then I will try to get something that I can put inside of this that's 3/4 inch, and then basically slide this in and put a pin through it so I can remove this when I want to. But that is going to be perfect. Not have to bend over at all. So what I got to do is figure out where I am going to put this pillow block so that I have enough room to bolt it through and not be on top of this shaft or on this weld here. I mean, the weld wouldn't, well, I'd have to drill all the way down to this, so that's not going to work. So that clears perfectly. If I went down between that, it's going to be really too close to that. Instead of drilling down into the tubing, I'm going to get some thicker plate, which I know I have. So I've got this 1/2 inch bar stock. I'm going to cut it to 2 pieces at 5 inch to make a threaded tab and just mount it right here. Just weld it. So the 5 inch piece right here, and then drill down into this over there, thread it, and then I can basically just right into it and have a 1/2 inch of threads, which will be more than sufficient. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that, but one thing I'll have to do is grind that flat. What's nice about these articulating pillow blocks is it doesn't have to be perfectly square. Just basically center that bad boy right on there, mark them and drill them. And I think what I'll do is maybe bring this in a little bit, just weld it to the edge there, not all the way out, so that I can have it inset somewhat to afford for the sleeve. I'm going to, well, put these right at the edge on both of them. So what I'm going to do is put these together, just put a tack weld on both sides. That way I can drill them as one. Good enough. Now I need to go see what size bolts I have or need. 1/2 inch, 13. It's gonna be fun drilling through 1 inch of steel twice. All right, I am going to tap these individually. Basically, I'm going to use the drill press to keep it vertical-ish. Keep it under pressure so that I know that it's going in straight. Because it's a 1/2 inch 13, it's pretty big. Still keep trying to use the drill press as the drill press. It's a little bit crooked. I'm gonna have to get the vise out. Okay, so I'm gonna use this to start it, which I've got it started. I'm gonna do all 4 of them, because with a 1/2 inch it's hard to push down and visualize that it's going in there straight. Alright, so got all 4 holes tapped. This front one I'm going to line up with the outside right edge, but I'm going to put it right on the edge inboard so I have room to put a shaft sleeve. This one I can't because it would be too close to the sprocket, and it doesn't need to be anyway. I'm wondering if I should turn this one around so that it's further aft. I think that's what I'll do on this one. Okay, I need to grind the bottom of this. Okay, now the front one. Yeah, I know, don't cut without a guard on it, but I wasn't standing in line with it. I'm also going to weld on a piece of tubing, most likely to the back, vertical, so that I can put an umbrella on this bad boy. That's too rough. I'm gonna go get this on the belt sander. Ooh, hot. So I need at least, let's say, about 2 inches sticking out. That'll give me enough to put a bolt in it or weld it. And then I need at least another 4 inches of this. That's the link I need to pop off. Hey! Okay. Camera didn't hit. That's nice. Let's lay it on the tripod. That's how it's sitting. Ah! That ain't gonna work. That's too close. So basically what the problem is that the chain is too close, and to get it to work I have to put the sprocket, smaller sprocket offset. So what I'm going to do is get some longer bolts, because I have literally 3/4 to an inch of space to be able to do that. And then that'll push this back block to the rear with more washers, so probably double the washers for spacers and longer bolts. So I need some 5/16 inch bolts that are 3 1/4, 3 inch. 3 inch gets me an extra 1/2 inch, but that gives me another 3/4 of an inch I can go before I get to the back. So I'm going to try for 3 1/2 inch bolts. But either way, I mean, that's pretty legit. And I was worried about the distance between with the slack, but I mean, you don't really have to worry about the distance, because you can move these pillow blocks in or out a little bit to make it tighter. I mean, I could only get the chain so tight before it, it linked up. So basically, when I loosen these up, actually, this one's already loose. Let's see if I can get this a little bit tighter by moving the block away further. The problem with it being tighter is it's basically causing it to go in and out, because the sprocket is further away and it's offset, so it's basically grinding. So I'm going to need to make a list here. So when my camera fell, I did bend something. Got this nice quality 90-degree USB-C cable that basically just popped out and bent the crap out of it. So this thing's done, so I'm gonna need to order another one, because this is the only thing that I have that plugs my microphone kit to the actual camera. But here's what I've gotten so far. I've got the entire thing mocked up and ready to go. I do need to get some 3 1/2 inch 5/16 bolts to extend this sprocket further away, because right now, to clear this when it's going back and forth, because there's so much play in it, I have to have this sprocket full 7/8 to 1 inch away from the center line where it's centered. So right now it's basically meshing against the teeth of the sprocket. So everything's fabbed up, ready to go, except for drilling a hole and putting some 3/8/16 nuts here and welding them, and then put some 3/8/16 bolts on to tighten down. I need to put an umbrella pocket so that I can mount an umbrella to this thing, so when I'm outside I can be out of the sun or rain. What else? Oh, I need to fabricate some type of a mount for the counterbalance weights. So that's pretty much all I have left to do. So I'm gonna go in, take a shower, eat some lunch dinner, and then order me a new cable. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. This is Matt with Fabricating Firewood.